Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. Hope everybody had a nice day, safe. Once again, great questions. I say that every night, but there are great questions out there. Before I address the antibody testing issue, I just want to address a question I had from a mom who has a child with heart disease, known heart disease, that apparently is controlled without symptoms right now, but she was questioning whether or not it would be safe for her child with heart disease, who would be at risk for COVID-19, to go out in public wearing a mask, particularly the N95 that we talked about. And the answer is that it will offer some protection from him breathing in the virus. However, as we talked before, those masks are more to protect others. And what I'm just going to let that mother know, if she's listening, and the rest of you. In a previous video, I talked about holding flour in my hand, cooking, baking flour in my hand. And imagine if I'm talking and what's happening to that flour in my hand, or sneezing or coughing. If I'm not wearing a mask, that flour is blowing all over anybody within several feet of me. Right? So if that child is wearing a mask, true, he's not breathing in that flour, i.e. that virus at that moment, but that virus is getting into his hair, onto his clothes, etc. So he goes home, takes the mask off, and shakes out his clothes or scratches his head or anything like that. That virus starts spreading around, and he's able to breathe that in. So to answer that question directly, the N95 mask will offer your son some protection from breathing in that virus while he's out in public near somebody who's he's being exposed to. But it's not offering complete protection. So I would not rely on that mask to protect your child from that disease. Okay? I hope that answers that question. So I'm going to jump right into antibody testing. We're hearing the news now that there are more and more sites offering antibody testing. And so I don't miss this one particular point. Before you get any testing, I recommend that you speak to your physician. If I'm the physician, give me a shout. But talk to your physician before you get the testing, so that what I'm explaining to you right now could be further enhanced by your doctor. First of all, let's talk about what they're looking for on an antibody test. If you were exposed to and had COVID-19 virus in your bloodstream, your immune system produces proteins called antibodies to attack that foreign invader, that foreign pathogen. In this case, the virus that causes COVID-19. What the test is a blood test to look for that protein, that antibody, that is specifically fighting COVID-19. Here are the problems, though. Number one, it takes up to 3 weeks. The CDC is saying 1 to 3 weeks to mount an immune response. In other words, to have a detectable level of that protein, of that antibody in your bloodstream, will take up to 3 weeks. So if you choose to get a antibody test, a blood test, don't get it before 3 weeks after you had those symptoms, because it may show up negative, even though you were positive for it. That's number one. It's also important to note that right now there are over 100 different tests that are commercially available. And those tests are going to run you somewhere between $50 and $200 to have them done. Only 8 of those tests have been FDA approved. Companies flooded the market with tests. Only 8 were FDA approved. And those tests that are not approved, and even the ones that are, have a very high false positive or false negative rate, meaning that you get the test has a, let's say, a high false positive rate, meaning you test positive. Now you don't know if you could trust that test if it is a true positive. Number one. Number two, assuming that you test positive and it's a true positive result, we don't know if those antibodies in your bloodstream offer complete immunity to the next time you get COVID-19 exposure. In other words, you have the antibodies in your bloodstream. We don't know if that offers complete immunity, meaning if you get exposed, you still may get the disease again. So it doesn't offer, we don't know if it offers protection. Number two, if it does offer protection, we don't know how long that's going to last. We don't know if it's going to be a 1 month or 3 months or 3 years. Those tests for the immunity protection and for the length of immunity protection are not available yet, and we won't know those answers for another 6 to 12 months out. So if we were to put this together, the test is going to cost you up to $200 out of pocket. The tests are not completely reliable. We don't know if you test positive, if you have immunity to COVID-19, and how much immunity you have against it. And we also don't know how long it's going to last. Over 100 tests on the market, only 8 approved by the FDA. If you put this thing together, and let's put it this way, if you're my patient, call me and talk to me about it. My suggestion right now is that I think getting the antibody test right now is, for most situations, is pointless. Until we can have a better test out with a higher level of accuracy, I don't believe that it's a necessary test. But I'm going to go back to my very first point. If you want to have an antibody test, speak to your physician before getting an antibody test. That physician will lead you in the right direction. He may want you to get that test. He may not want you to get that test, he or she. So I'm going to leave it at that right now. Tomorrow, I want to talk about a situation that I'm hearing more about, and it's called herd immunity. Herd immunity has to do with, putting everybody together who are exposed or may be exposed to a pathogen such as the COVID-19, and what happens to them. So we'll address that tomorrow. Happy Thursday. Hope everybody has a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.